Hey everybody, this is Matt with Nowaskey Suspension, and today we're going to do a walk around of my 2005 Road Glide. Built this bike on the channel, I don't know, in the springtime sometime, and I've been able to ride it all summer, and we haven't really done a walk around video of the whole bike completed. And so I think it's a good time to do that. I've also been able to ride the bike all summer and really kind of figure out what I think about it, and I think that's a good thing. So I'm gonna start off by saying that I have really enjoyed riding this bike all summer. It's kind of given me another love for riding, I would say. When you work in the motorcycle industry, it can kind of take, or any industry, it can kind of take away your love for that industry. And I hadn't been doing a lot of long distance riding or longer rides or anything like that. I would just kind of go stunt ride and mess around, and that would be it. But this bike, I really have been spending some good time riding it, and I've really enjoyed it. So to start, again, this bike is a 2005 Road Glide. The motor is kind of the one thing that we haven't done a whole lot to. It had a 95-inch in it. We did add a throttle body, obviously this S&S teardrop air cleaner in carbon, which matches the other carbon really nicely, and it's kind of one of my favorite small details on the bike. It has Screaming Eagle heads, but we have wanted to do some motor work to the bike, but we just don't really quite know what yet because I haven't made up my mind. I really want the 107 out of Track King that we've talked about in other videos, but I think that would be the perfect motor for a stunt bike slash normal riding bike. When you're stunt riding, you don't want a whole lot of power, so it's not like you want a 124 or something crazy. You're trying to find the balance of a lot of power, but still very smooth power. So that's kind of the only downfall to this bike has been the motor, and I'm ready for more power for sure. So that'll get upgraded when we have time, so who knows when. Obviously, it does have this billet back cut geared transmission from 77 cycles. That has been a first for me, having a bike with a aftermarket gear set in it, and that is really nice to feel the engagement in there, and it just kind of adds another experience to riding this bike. So I really liked that. Also, this Baker, I believe it's a Baker filler for the oil. Having this threaded has made a lot of things much easier, as far as a lot of guys with baggers, they'll put some kind of cover over the cap of that filler, or else when they're doing wheelies or when the motor's under load, it'll actually pop off and spray oil everywhere. And I've loved that this hasn't happened with this bike because of that. So that's been super cool. We're kind of jumping all over the place, so maybe we'll start on the front of the bike. These are actually some Nowaskey prototype wheels. We're kind of working on them, and maybe they'll come to fruition soon, but I've really liked them. I think they look unique. The 3-spoke look isn't very common. I would say most people do a 5-spoke, and I think it looks kind of racy, so that's cool. These are G-brake race rotors. It's the same 13-inch rotor and pattern, but I believe these have more pins in them than the standard wave rotor, and they've held up really nicely. Obviously paired with our big brake kit, so our Brembo M4 calipers in titanium. Those have been super sweet. It's been nice having a bike with really nice brakes. You guys, that's super important. Like if you're building a nice bike, make sure you think about brakes. It's very important. This is our level 4 front end. So for 13 and down models, you can get this front end and convert your 41 millimeter to a 49. Huge improvement. So that's going to include Dominator fork legs with radial mounts, obviously. I chose to do black Pro 1 plus 2 fork tubes. And then this is a Dominator conversion tree that will convert that 41 millimeter front end into a 49. And I've really, really liked that. If you notice on the front, I do have my tubes sucked up just a little bit. I did that because I had a really hard time stunt riding the bike at a +2 height and 14s in the rear. I felt like I was always trying to find the ground when I was drifting and trying to put my foot down or whatever. It just seemed really, really tall. I think for average riding, like normal riding, I would have really enjoyed it. But for what I do with the bike, I wanted to fine tune the ride height a little bit. And so I sucked those tubes up in the front. And then in the rear, I moved my 14-inch shocks to more of like a 13.5 or a 13, I guess. So I'm basically like +1 rather than being +2. I'm really making Nick work for it, walking around all over the place. Of course, original garage risers on this bike. These are 8.5s with a pullback. And then I have these ODI moto bars that will taper from 1.125" clamping to your standard 1-inch up top. So, you know, I have a 1-inch throttle assembly and then a 1-inch Brembo RCS 19 brake reservoir. And then I have an RSC easy pull clutch, super nice, really easy to pull, one finger. This clutch cable, everything feels so great on this bike, and it makes it feel like you're riding a brand new motorcycle. So I really like that. I think 8.5s are a little bit tall for stunt riding. I'd ideally like a 6.5, I think, but because I have been riding this bike on, you know, full days worth of riding, I have enjoyed going a little bit taller, and it's kind of the best of both worlds. Also in the front, I guess I should mention our Coso gauge. We've sold a handful of these. It seems like guys are really liking them. I really, really like this feature on the bike. It makes it look much newer and updated compared to the older model. And I'll actually turn it on. This is also a really cool feature that we have. So this kind of activates, this is basically my key or my ignition. So that turns on. This gauge has been really cool. Also, you can see down here, I have a Bluetooth receiver. So this bike does have speakers. I just don't need a full deck because anymore, guys, like you run a phone mount, you have your phone, and you're most likely gonna be choosing songs and all that stuff off of your phone rather than a standard deck or something like that. So that works out really, really well. It's lightweight, and I guess that would be like the happy medium way of a performance bagger with a stereo system, would be trying to keep it as light as possible but still having speakers, because let's be honest, you got a lady on the bike, nothing sets the vibe like some good tunes, right? So that's been fun. I guess this seat here, this is a Saddleman gripper seat that was made for me, and actually it's pretty uncommon, but this seat is full gripper. So the sides, everywhere on top, passenger, this piece back here, like full gripper. I think it looks kind of cool. It reminds me of a dirt bike seat, and it kind of looks a little bit slimmed down a little bit. It's also very grippy, like when you're drifting, having this gripper right here kind of wants to pull your pants off sometimes, but you stay on the bike, so that's cool. Obviously for floorboards here, we also have the original garage honeycomb floorboards with this brake pedal here. I modified the actual brake mount here and shortened it so it was really short. I don't know that I would recommend this for average everyday riding, because basically what you're risking is if you have air in your brakes and you go to pump them up, and if you don't have enough room to pump them up because this is so close, that could be dangerous. But I haven't had that happen. I make sure to keep a good master cylinder, and my brakes bled at all times. So that's not something that I worry about, but you guys at home should be mindful of that. So moving towards the back of the bike here, we have our Dominator swing arm. Really liked the swing arm. It makes such a big improvement for riding this bike in the corners. And also, I was a little bit nervous to try an aftermarket swing arm when it came to stunt riding, because I wasn't sure what it was going to do. I've only ever ridden a stock one, which is very flimsy, and I didn't know what it would be like having that much more strength in the back end, I guess. And I have liked it a lot. It's been super nice to have a much better adjustable chain tensioner here rather than the stock cams that It's horrible. Obviously you can see too, there's 4 locations for these shock holes. So like I was talking about, dialing in what you want your ride height to be. This is a really nice tool because you can move your fork tubes up and down a little bit depending on what you're looking for. My bike is a little bit heavy in the front end, meaning it's a little bit nose down. I like that because it's really nice for control. It helps it dive into the corners better, things like that. And I think it's a really good thing to be able to do. So the swing arm's been great. Also, guys, we get a lot of questions about how this raw material holds up. I like to keep my bike fairly clean, but I am not the best at it. Sometimes if I go out and ride on the weekend in the rain, I might not be able to get to washing my bike until the weekend after because we're just so busy around here. And it's held up pretty well. I do think I'm going to try to find some protective coating so that when customers ask about it, we can also offer that. But so far it's been great. Also in the rear, which is pretty rare for the skinny tire baggers, is we have our own radial mount here. We are working on these mounts and I think we're going to come out with them for sure this winter time. And this is a huge upgrade for these older bikes. It allows you to place a Brembo M4 caliper. And then of course we have our G-brake rotor in the back. And then again, our Nowaskey wheel. As far as tires go, I'm not the best guy to ask about tires around here because I just take whatever's in the burn pile because I'm just burning through them, obviously. So this is some old tire that's not even really worth mentioning. And then in the front, I've always ran Shinko tires because when you're drifting and things like that, having a grippy front tire is always really good. So that covers kind of down here, right? Moving forward, we have a stainless SPC 2-into-1 short length exhaust. It's been fun testing this exhaust out and I have liked the sound and tone from it. It's a little bit hard to tell if it's a good power pipe or not because, well, A, it's a short pipe, so you're never gonna get as much power out of a short pipe, and this motor's tired, and so it's not really the best example anyways. Can't forget our crash bars here. So we've got SBC rear crash bars and front crash bars on this bike. They work well. They've been used and abused. You can tell the sliders are a little bit scuffed up. I try not to drop this bike too much because it's my pride and joy, honestly. I really like these little passenger pegs here. These are OG foot pegs. You can use them on the front or back, and I believe the options when you're on the pages for these allow you to select what you're using the pegs for, and it'll come with the required clasps to make that happen. I really like these because they're small, and to be honest, they are really grippy. I think for the amount of riding that I would do in a day with a passenger, they don't need a full entire floorboard. Like, this is plenty of grip. Their feet aren't going to be moving and their legs aren't going to be tired because their feet aren't sliding around or anything like that. And they just match everything really nicely. So that's really cool. We've got Hoffman carbon fiber bag lids on these bags. These are updated bags off of an 09 and up bike. So they have the latches here. I've got some. This is a really nice thing. These are cut bags, but we did carpet the insides of these bags, and I love little things like that. It makes it so much nicer to have your things in there and not worry about them getting beat up. Moving around to the back here, we've got our Nowaskey. These are 14-inch remote reservoir shocks. I think for my spring rate, I run a 140, which is definitely a little bit too stiff for the average person. That's just the way that I like my bikes for the type of riding that I do. I usually run my compression on like 3 or 4, so it's definitely a little bit on the stiffer side, and I wouldn't recommend that to too many people, but that's how I like my bike. We also have some custom made bag rails here because you can see we've chopped off the back of the bags, and these bag rails are basically, so the stock ones would come out to about here and you would see the back of them, and that drives me crazy with shortened bags when you can see all that back here and they get scratched up from hitting the ground, and I just don't like it. So we have these, and I think we're actually going to make these with some mounting holes for reservoirs to mount back there a little bit cleaner if you're not quite into the T bracket here. Also, we have a Scrape City tie plate here. I need to get one. I think I'm going to have one machined to the this profile of the fender cut here, just because I think it'll look a little bit more Harley-Davidson to me. This is a little bit on the stunt bike side, and I've never really been a huge fan of the big block of titanium. But it does look cool when it throws sparks when you're doing wheelies. So just little things that I nitpick. Oh, I don't know if we ever talked about our fairing mounts here. These are pretty cool. I actually designed these myself. I don't know if we'll make those or not, but I thought for this it'd be pretty cool. You can see the Nowaskey logo in there. Kind of matches the aesthetics of everything else on the bike. This dash, I get a lot of questions about this dash. So this is a Bad Dad dash without a hole. I had to like call them and ask them not to cut the hole in the fiberglass dash. And this was a Road King before, and we converted it to a Road Glide, so that's why it has a side fill tank, not a center fill tank. But I kind of like it actually, because I do love having this Moto Hoffman gas cap here, and it keeps this all really, really clean. So that's kind of cool. This bike, everywhere that you can see, well, everywhere in general actually, has ARP hardware on it. So I never knew that that would be such a big thing that I would be interested in, but to be honest, it is such a big improvement over your factory hardware, and it stays longer, stays nicer much, much longer. It just looks really good having the same bolts everywhere. Of course, now that I'm looking at my bike, I'm seeing the like 6 bolts that don't have them, so it never ends, guys. But one thing that we did do with this bike that's pretty rare and I think pretty cool that we took from the Nowaskey race team is that the race bike always had a catch can, an oil catch can put on it. So baggers, for whatever reason, when you're doing wheelies on them, they have a lot of blow-by oil, and that oil has to go somewhere. So Pete thought it would be a good idea to run a catch can on this bike. So these heads are connected. You might not be able to see the line, but there's AN fittings and a line that connect these 2 cylinder heads together, and then this bleeds all the way back down to the back of the bike. So this goes under the tank, crosses over, and comes all the way back here. And that basically collects all the nasty blow-by oil that you really don't want in your motor. And then it's also vented back here atmospherically. We'll probably do a color match catch can or something, but it's a pretty cool feature, and you don't see it on a lot of stunt bikes. Most guys will just run a long hose and spray oil all over their chain and lubricate their chain at the same time, but that's like too messy of a situation to really even think about, right? So I really like this, and it keeps the bike clean and not looking like it's leaking oil from everywhere. I don't know, my favorite part about this bike, honestly, as simple as it is the graphics, probably because that's what I had the biggest part in designing. So they've been pretty fun. I think I'm gonna probably try to do an updated graphic for them. And we've had a lot of people ask about graphics for their bikes, and maybe that's something to talk about in another video, but I guess I'll just say that I'm working on it. So that's super fun to me. I like customizing things and making things look cool. That's my favorite part of a project. So designing this bike on a file and making a rendering of the frame and the graphics and like figuring out what the bike would look like when it was done, that's my favorite part, is the way things look. And obviously because of my riding style, I like the way things perform too, but I just love when you build something and you know, it gets people's attention, good or bad. Everyone has their opinions, but it's just an exciting thing. Is like, oh man, are people gonna like it, or am I gonna like it? You know, so that's always a fun part, and I really enjoy that. Obviously, you can't really see it on the bottom, but there's a skid plate we built, and it's got a cool graphic that matches the rest of these. Also, something that we have been working on too, I'll show before I turn these lights on, is working with Baja Designs a little bit. They sent us lights for the ambulance project and for my bagger. The whole goal with that is that the ambulance and this would have Baja Designs lights all around it, and that's like a cool thing, right, when you're driving around. I'm really excited to try these out at night because I've ridden with other people that have Baja Designs lights, and they are so bright. Like, I would feel comfortable riding around in deer country at night with these things on, because like they are day makers for sure. So Rhett actually designed a cool bracket. With these older style fairings, it's really hard to get these LP6s like tucked in a ways, and a lot of the brackets that are out there like stick them out even farther than this, and it's like, it just doesn't look right. I could come up with a million things that it looks like, but it probably wouldn't be appropriate for, for YouTube. So Rhett worked really hard on this bracket that I'm kind of testing out to see how it works. It allows them to be adjustable pretty easily. And it's also just a better mounting solution for headlights on these bikes, where if you're stunt riding them or aggressively riding them, you don't have to worry about your headlight popping out of just those clips. So that's pretty cool. I'll turn them on. I need to wire in a bright switch, but these are just the dims, and they are super bright. Probably brighter than the headlights that I had before on bright. So I'm really excited to ride with these and play around with the different lights. I think maybe we might powder coat these outer pieces to match the frame eventually, but yeah, really excited to see how this comes out and see if people are interested in them. I know a lot of guys are not really modifying these skinny tire bikes, but I would say a lot of our customers still are, and that's kind of our thing, is like we want to take these old bikes and put money into them and make them better than what you could go get a new bike as, you know, good lighting. That's why things like the dash and the tack are really important to us, having things like that that make these bikes look newer, because there's nothing like riding a skinny tire bike that's set up like this. It's just an experience that you can't really explain. It's kind of like driving a vintage car at this point, right? Like newer bikes have all these electronics and different things, and I like that raw feeling of a bike, and that's what this does for me. So yeah, this is my 05 Road Glide. I'm so happy and thankful. I never thought I would own a motorcycle like this, and I couldn't without Nowaskey, that's for sure, because it's a lot of work to make something like this. So I've gotten a lot of great feedback riding around on it over the summer. A lot of people watch these YouTube videos, and that was really cool for us to see how we could do projects online and have that be interesting to other people. It's really cool, and I think it makes the guys working on the bikes feel, you know, special that they got to be a part of it. And because I'll be honest, I just did the stuff on the computer to make the way that it looked, but I had no part in anything else because I'm not good with a wrench. So I am happy to admit that. But yeah, guys, this has been an awesome project, and I can't wait to fine tune a couple of things and keep riding it and get a little bit more power in there so we can really do some sliding, you know. With that, you guys, any of the parts that you see on this bike, absolutely all of them are live on our website. If you have any questions, make sure to send us an email to info@nowaskey.com. And I guess that's it for this video. Make sure to leave a comment, thumbs up, like, or whatever, subscribe, all that stuff. And we'll see you on the next video. We appreciate you guys a lot. Thanks.